How long does IGF-1 LR3 stay in your system? This is a great question, and it may surprise you because most people treat this growth hormone releasing peptide like a short chain compound where it's just pulsatile. But what we'll uncover in this video is actually what it does, how long it's active in your body, how to cycle this, some of the downfalls of it, and why this is one of my favorite growth hormone releasing peptides because of the potential for muscle growth. But I'm Regan Archibald. I'm the founder of Ageless Future. I make these videos because I'm obsessed with peptides, and I love talking to you guys and making new relationships through this platform. But most importantly, I do it because I believe that your health is your most valuable asset. And if I can help you increase and improve your health every year, I've done my job. So let's jump in. IGF-1 LR3, how long does it stay in your system? Roughly 20 to 30 hours per administration. And no, it's not a typo. It's understanding this becomes one of the most critical things you can do because especially if you have blood sugar issues, if you have a provider who doesn't know much about peptides and they just read what's the strongest growth hormone peptide, they're going to go IGF-1 LR3 or tesamorelin. This is a robust peptide because if you start with the science, the native IGF-1, the insulin-like growth factor your liver produces in response to growth hormone, it has a free-form half-life of about 10 to 20 minutes. That's your natural production. And why is this? Well, because your body produces 6 binding proteins called IGF-BPs that grab circulating IGF-1 and sequester it almost immediately. So it's a brilliant safeguard. That keeps IGF-1 from running unchecked. But IGF-1 LR3 is an engineered analog of this native IGF-1. It has 2 structural modifications. One, it's got an arginine substitution at position 3 on the peptide chain. That's where the R3 comes from. And a 13 amino acid extension added to the N-terminus. That's the long part. So together, these modifications reduce its affinity for IGF-BPs at approximately 1,000-fold. So in the study in Frontiers of Endocrinology, the way that the authors describe it is roughly 98% of circulating native IGF-1 is bound by these IGF-BPs at any given moment. IGF-1 LR3 largely bypasses that sequestration mechanism, and the result is an estimated biological half-life of 20 to 30 hours in vivo, approximately 70 to 150 times longer than free native IGF-1. So once daily administration, you could just imagine, you could do the math as easy as I can, but you're going to maintain this sustained receptor active presence. Now, the signaling pathway it activates, you're working on IGF-1 LR3, it binds to IGF-1 receptors, and the IGF-1 IR surfaces, and that binding drives this PI3K and ATK pathways, which drive protein synthesis. It activates mTOR. You get this activation of the suppression of FOXO transcription factors that turn on autophagy genes. You're getting growth. In 2008, the British Journal of Pharmacology, they identified IGF-1 LR3 as central to IGF-1-mediated muscle mass regulation. And so what they found in this architecture of the pharmacokinetics is that IGF-1 LR3 compared to native IGF-1, they found that it approximately has 3 times the increase of potency over your native IGF-1. Not only that, but you have this dramatically extended half-life, meaning it's not just present longer, but it's more active per molecule during that window. So what does that mean practically? Well, it means the peptide's peak plasma concentration arrives roughly 4 to 6 hours post-administration and then tapers through this prolonged active window. And that sustained presence creates what research describes as this continuous anabolic signaling environment, something that pulsatile growth hormone secretagogues by design, they do not do. And it's a different signaling pathway altogether, and it carries significant implications for monitoring. And that's That's why your clearance of hepatic and renal filtration systems, you want to look at that. Any protocol where you're using IGF-1 LR3, do not do this one on your own, and make sure there's provider oversight that includes a baseline where you get all your labs ran up front. And for those of you who want to get labs ran, go to agelessfuture.com. Just click on the link for intro. My team will help you get blood labs ran that are full functional medicine panels. But look at your liver, your kidney markers, and your blood sugar, because you can have low blood sugar on this one. And I tend to be hypoglycemic. I tend to trend towards very low blood sugar. And so this is a peptide that, over the years I've had to adjust, where I'm using it like every other day and sometimes just once a week. Otherwise, my blood sugar drops too low. And if you wear a continuous glucose monitor, that can be helpful too. So very first thing you want to test, you think, what does IGF-1 do? Well, it's basically the workhorse for growth hormone. It's one of the most powerful peptides in the entire book. And IGF-1, it helps build muscle mass, it helps with deep sleep, it helps your body regulate its core metabolic functions, it can protect your liver, it can protect your kidneys. But at a higher pulse rate, this is where your blood sugar can get dysregulated. It can drop too low and then too high. So you want to get baseline IGF-1 tested. If you're already in the 200s, I just wouldn't even touch this one. You want to look at fasting glucose, fasting insulin, and if you do use IGF-1 LR3, you want to make sure that you're doing some intermittent fasting as you can tolerate it, making sure you're getting your protein in. But once again, test your blood sugar. You want to make sure you're exercising every day. I would not take this one if it's a day you're not exercising and having some serious caloric expenditure. You want to look at your hemoglobin A1C, your comprehensive metabolic panel, ALT, AST, ALP, your GGT, your creatinine, your estimated glomerular filtration rate. You want to look at your lipid profile. But ideally, what you'd look at is you want to build muscle, you want to protect your brain. IGF-1 is the key that unlocks BDNF, so it's one of the best things you can have circulating in your brain for long-term brain health. But look at IGF-1 first. And here's a study that was published in 2022 involving nearly 31,000 participants, and they were looking for an optimal range of IGF-1. They were looking at 120 to approximately 160 nanograms per milliliters, and because they found the low levels associated those with all-cause mortality, both low and high levels carry substantial elevated risks on this U-shaped curve. So too low, you got problems, too high, you got problems. We find most people are on the too low end. What the research, they ran cycles of 6 to 4 weeks, and then they repeated IGF-1, fasting glucose, insulin sensitivity markers. They monitored for hypoglycemia signals like dizziness, lightheadedness, cold sweats. That reflected the IGF-1 LR3's insulin-like effect on your glucose uptake. And then the provider, they retested it. And so you can retest after about 90 days, or you wouldn't want to stay on IGF-1 LR3 more than 30 days. And in that, still want to space it out, maybe have it last 60 days, but then recheck your labs. And then you can see if IGF-1 climbed up into the optimal range, job well done, but cycle into a different growth hormone releasing peptide like CJC 1295, which I have great videos on CJC. I have it on the side effects, the benefits. You can look at that. As with CJC or ipamorelin, IGF-1 LR3 is not an FDA-approved treatment. And so make sure you're not using research use only peptides. Talk to your medical provider about this, because your future self, you don't just need more growth hormone. You just want pulses of it. But there's certain times of your life where you're in a muscle building stage and maybe you're increasing your athletic performance. IGF-1 LR3 can be a game changer for that, and especially if you can stack it with something that activates AMPK. So it downregulates that mTOR, something like 5-amino-1-MQ, which I also have videos on that, MOTC, SS31, SLOOP 332. Those can all be really important ways of protecting your signaling as you're using this, and then using a compound like BPC 157 for recovery, thymosin beta 4. And so if you love this video, share it with your friends, family, loved ones. If you know some of your friends who are on IGF-1 LR3, let them know it's got a really long half-life. It's not one that you want to be doing on your own. Make sure you have medical providers helping you with this. I really appreciate you being on the channel. I'd love to see you at one of my events. So you're invited to one of my longevity retreats in Utah. Just go to agelessfuture.com, hit the events page, and I'll see you in person soon.